Meeting of the Academic and Student Affairs Committee for February 4th, 2026 will now come to order at
2:30 p.m.
This meeting was called for the purposes listed on the duly posted meeting notice. The other committee members are Trustees Dr. Adriana Tamez, Renee Patterson, and alternate Trustee Eva Laredo. A citizen desiring to appear before the Board of Trustees shall complete the hearing of citizens form 24 hours prior to the meeting and file said application with the Board Services Office. There are no citizens signed up to speak before the Academic and Student Affairs Committee today. Is there a motion to approve item A, approved honorary degrees for 2026?
So move.
And I will second. It has been moved and seconded. Dr. Ford Fisher will introduce the item.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, members of the board. This item is a recommendation item for your consideration of approval of honorary degree recipients for the 2026 spring commencement ceremony. And with your permission, Mr. Chair, Dr. Norma Perez, Senior Vice Chancellor of Instruction and Student Services, will provide an overview and respond to questions. Dr. Perez.
Thank you, Chancellor. Good afternoon, trustees and guests. As Houston City College prepares for the spring 2026 commencement ceremony to be held on Friday, March 8, 2026, the Board of Trustees will consider the conferral of honorary degrees on individuals whose achievements and service reflect the mission and values of the college. The selected candidates for the spring 2026 represent excellence in education, public service, journalism, business, entrepreneurship, and the arts, as well as a lasting commitment to the Houston community and the state of Texas. Nominees include nationally and locally recognized leaders whose work has advanced education, civic engagement, economic development, and cultural enrichment. Collectively, these individuals exemplify the board's criteria for excellence, meritorious service, and significant contributions to society. This year, the honorary degree recipients are the following: Mario Figueroa, Jr., known professionally as Gonzalo 247, is a Houston-based multidisciplinary artist and pioneer of the city's graffiti and street art movement with more than 30 years of impact locally and internationally. His work and leadership in public art have been widely recognized through civic, cultural, and national honors. The second one is Rhonda Price. Rhonda Price is a Houston native, an accomplished entrepreneur and corporate leader with extensive experience across finance, real estate, wellness, and entertainment enterprises. She has demonstrated a sustained commitment to civic leadership, mentorship, and community service throughout her professional career. Next, we have Scott Braddock. Scott Braddock is an award-winning journalist and political analyst who serves as the editor of the Quorum Report, the leading publication covering Texas government and politics. His career includes decades of public service, journalism, and recognition for excellence at the state and national levels. We also have Dr. Ron Page. Dr. Ron Page was a nationally respected educator and public servant who served as the 7th U.S. Secretary of Education and as superintendent of the Houston Independent School District. His long life dedication to public education and leadership continues to have a lasting impact at the local, state, and national levels even after his death. And lastly, we have Brian Bond, and he's been nominated as well. Any questions?
No questions, but I did have the honor of working under Rod Page when I was in Houston ISD. And Gonzo, we've seen his work in the community. So those ones that I know personally. So, but thank you to the trustees for recommending these names. And we look forward to them being approved. Thank you.
All right, no questions from me, so we are now ready to vote on item A.
Voting has concluded. The motion passed with a vote of 2-0.
Congratulations.
Now we move to item B, update on credentials of value. This is a report item. No action is required. Dr. Ford Fisher will introduce the item.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, member of the board. This is a discussion item that provides an update on how the college is building greater capacity to use data-informed insights to strengthen student transfer pathways that support students' social and economic mobility. And with your permission, Mr. Chair, Dr. Norma Perez will provide an overview and respond to questions. Dr. Perez.
Thank you, Chancellor. Again, good afternoon, trustees and guests. Before I get into the presentation, I want to give you a little history about the Talent Strong Texas Pathways. Houston City College has been actively involved in the Texas Strong Texas Pathways initiative supported by the Texas Success Center since 2015. Texas Pathways focuses on expanding pathways that help more students earn credentials for high-demand careers with living wages. HCC's participation in the Texas Pathway Framework has been linked to significant gains in momentum metrics that research shows correlate with higher completion and transfer rates. In 2022, HCC was recognized statewide as a recipient of the Rodeo Award, which is the recognition of dedication to educational outcomes from the Texas Association of Community Colleges for its growth in key student success outcomes. In the current Texas Pathway work, HCC was welcomed into Round 4 Pathways as an impact college. Round 4 represents a shift from broad implementation to goal-driven, outcome-focused action, positioning HCC to scale its work over the next 2 years with clear accountability and data tracking. HCC's focus area for Round 4 is transfer success and structured co-enrollment, with an institutional goal of increasing the number of students who successfully transfer to a 4-year university by at least 5% by spring of 2027. This work supports students not only in transferring, but in persisting towards and completing a baccalaureate degree. So through its partnership with the Texas Success Center, HCC is receiving structured guidance, coaching, and technical assistance grounding in the Talent Strong Texas Pathways Framework. This support emphasizes data-informed decision-making, continuous improvement, and alignment with workforce and state success metrics. The official launch of Round 4 occurred during the Summer Catalyst convening in June of 2025, where college leadership engaged in strategic planning and formally committed to a measurable institutional goal. A key component of this work is the Compass Report, a cumulative planning and reflective tool used throughout the 2-year cycle to assess progress, identify promising practices, and guide ongoing support. A cross-functional Pathways core team comprised of academic student services and faculty leadership are serving as the designated leaders for this initiative. And if I'll ask them to stand if they're here, leaders of the group. And these are not the only individuals working on this project. They will involve others to help us move this initiative forward. So the team is guided by structured 2-year timeline that includes regular meetings, pathway initiatives, pathway institutes, strategic map development, and coordinated communication efforts. So participation in the Texas Pathway Round 4 will strengthen HCC's capability to use data-informed insights to enhance structured transfer pathways, reinforce institutional pipelines and community partnerships, and ultimately improve students' social and economic mobility through successful transfer and degree completion. Any questions? The team is here if you have any specific questions.
Trustees, any questions?
No,
I've got 2. So first question, I know U of H recently stood up their new transfer web portal. I'm just curious for initial reflections on how is that helping? Is that streamlining the process? And if so, are there opportunities for us to stand up or encourage our other partners in the 4-year space to stand up similar portals to continue streamlining?
I do know that, I don't know if Dr. Olmos, you have any specific information, but we are working in partnership with U of H now with their, I believe it's their liberal arts and social sciences college, with that in mind in terms of using that as a model in terms of how can we increase our 2+2 plans. And so there have been some initial meetings, and a lot of it requires, of course, the work of our faculty with their faculty. So we are making headway in that respect. So I think that the more we do that, and we do also have Houston GPS, which the chancellor is a member of, and they are doing quite a number of work also with the other surrounding four-year schools. So specifically, we have a project right now that we are working with U of H.
Perfect, thanks for that. Second question, it's something I saw on LinkedIn earlier today. So I saw that Good Reason Houston is pulling together a playbook to guide folks in the K through 12 community college and four-year space on directing students and helping to guide them toward family-sustaining wages. And really curious, are we plugged into that? Is their effort either feathering into this or plan to feather into it? Just curious about how that's all working together.
Yes, we're looking at the data. I know they put out a report just recently, and so we are looking at that. The chancellor and I also have met with the folks with Good Reason Houston, along with the superintendent of HISD. So they're helping us move some things forward. However, I do know that they do have much to offer, and we do want to see what we can do to work with them to see how they can support our initiatives in reference to dual credit.
All right. Cool, that's it for me. All right. Thank you, Dr. Perez.
You're welcome.
Unless there's any other, no? Well, in that case, the Academic and Student Affairs Committee meeting is now adjourned at
2:41 p.m.
2026 will now come to order at.
3:03 PM.
This meeting was called for the purposes listed on the duly posted meeting notice. The other committee members are trustees Monica Flores Reichart, David Wilson, and alternate trustee Sean Cheban. Opportunity for public comments. A citizen desiring to appear before the Board of Trustees shall complete the hearing of citizen form 24 hours prior to the meeting and file said application with the Board Services Office. There are no citizens who signed up to speak before the Audit Committee today. Topic for discussion and/or action. We will begin with item A, Internal Audit Status Report. This is a report item. No action is required, and Chancellor Ford Fisher will introduce the item.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair, members of the board. This presentation is for discussion pertaining to the Internal Audit Department's charter and Audit Committee responsibilities detailed in the Audit Committee charter. And with your permission, Madam Chair, Mr. Terrence Corrigan, Internal Auditor, will provide an overview and respond to questions. Mr. Corrigan.
Thank you, Chancellor. Good afternoon, Madam Chair and trustees. So this is a routine quarterly report on the status of the Internal Audit Department on its approved internal audit plan for fiscal year 2026. So the presentation, I'm going to summarize the internal audit information on the status of the plan. There's an attachment to your package that has follow-up information on observations on audit reports and outstanding observations. There'll be a report on external audits that are going on or reviews activity. And I'll make a statement on independence and impairments and scope limitations. So we did a presentation in November that was a lunch and learn on fraud awareness, and that went pretty well. So we have two projects that are in field work stage. We have our internal quality assurance review, and we also have a policing audit in progress. The internal quality assurance review is very important because it's the basis on which an external quality assurance review will be done by a third party, hopefully later this year. So projects in planning stage right now. So we have minors on campus. We have 3 college campus safety and environmental projects that are starting up. And we have 2 IT-related audits, IT disaster recovery, business continuity, and IT systems audit. And right now, HCC is working on establishing a security and safety program, which would be subject to audit later. And as I indicated before, attached to in your package is a summary of all the observations that were outstanding and what the status of those are. So right now, we don't have any procured services reviews going on. We have 2 regulatory imposed audits or reviews that were done or are in progress. The State Auditor's Office is in progress on their SB 17 audit, which the SB 17 required the State Auditor's Office to audit every higher education institution on SB 17, and this is our year. So that's in progress. And then City of Houston, they did an audit on our Empowering Solar Jobs program, and they reported that our program is compliant. And this is my giving you positive assurance that the internal audit function has experienced no independence impairments, and we have no scope limitations on our work by anybody. And that's my status report. Ready to answer any questions if you have any.
Committee members, are there any questions? Any questions from Madam Chair? Outstanding. Thank you. We appreciate the report. We will move to item B, review internal audit department and audit committee charters. This is a report item. No action is required. Chancellor will introduce the item.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair, members of the board. This presentation is for discussion pertaining to the internal audit department's charter and audit responsible details associated with the audit committee charter. And so with your permission, Madam Chair, Mr. Terrence Corrigan, internal auditor, will provide an overview and respond to questions. Mr. Corrigan.
All right. So this is required by the standards for internal auditing, and that our department charter and committee charter are to be approved by the audit committee and the board. It's very important because the audit committee, the internal audit department charter is the basis that gives the internal audit department its ability to do work at HCC. As indicated here, the global internal audit standards require that we do this, and so the proposed charters are attached in your package. So there's two different charters. There's the internal audit department charter, and then there's also the audit committee charter. And then we'll talk about proposed schedule for approving those charters. So normally we have some new members on the audit committees, and there's some information to be digested in approving the charters. So every year for the last 5 or 6 years, we've presented the charters to the audit committee in February, and then we come back in April and ask them to approve the charters. And so the global standards, as you can see here, I'm not going to read it to you, but it basically mandates that we have the charters approved by the audit committee and the board. And so both the charters are the same as last year. We have made no changes to them this year other than changing the name of our organization to Houston City College. There have been no major changes since we amended those charters last year to comply with the new internal audit standards. So in the internal audit department charter, the components of it are, there's a purpose in there, there's a mandate that basically you, the board, are giving us the mandate to do internal audit work. It talks about board oversight. It talks about the chief audit executive roles and responsibilities, and it has the scope and type of work in internal audit services that we do in our department. Then the audit committee charter, it gives what y'all's authority is, your purpose, your composition, how meetings are held, and the responsibilities of the audit committee for both oversight of internal audit and for oversight of external accounting entities that audit us. So, like I indicated before, to allow time for everybody on the committee to digest the information in the charters, our plan would be to bring back the charters in April for actual approval, give you time to come up with any questions you might have about them. And so copies of the charters are included in your package. And as I indicated before, there were no changes to the charters that were approved last year. So with that, ready to answer any questions you might have about those charters.
Committee members, are there any questions? Mr. Wilson.
Yeah, would you mind going over and reminding me why we decided to go with the global internal auditing package?
Well, the global internal auditing standards are the standards international for everybody, every company, every organization, everywhere. When they have an internal audit function, they can decide, well, that's not true. If you're a publicly traded entity, you can't decide. You have to have an internal audit department. But HCC could decide whether or not they want to go with the global standards. But those are the standards that if you're going to have standards for your internal audit department, they're recognized internationally as the standards you would follow and you would want to conform with in order to say that you are truly an internal audit professional department.
Can you share with the board the standards that were utilized before the global standard was required, what you did as internal audit team before the global standard was required?
Well, they were very similar. The standards are produced by the Institute of Internal Auditors, which is an internationally recognized organization for basically overseeing internal audit worldwide over everything. All the companies in industry who comply with Sarbanes-Oxley and those sort of things are required to have an internal audit department, and they be in compliance with internal audit standards. So before they went to the global standards, they had what they called the International Standards for Internal Audit, which had not been modified for about 20 years. And so they decided to revise them and bring them as they think was up to date. And so we had to either have to decide you're going to go with the new standards, or you're going to say that you're not an internal audit department that complies with internal audit standards.
Trustee Wilson, do you have another question? No. Okay. Thank you for the report. It is refreshing to know that we did not have to make any changes for what we do, and we're always ahead of the curve. So thank you for that, Mr. Corrigan. It is greatly appreciated. The next item is item C, internal audit orientation and required communications. This is a report item. Chancellor Ford Fisher will introduce the item.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair, members of the board. This item is an orientation and discussion report to provide high-level information on HCC's internal audit function and key global internet audit standards required communication with the board. And with your permission, Madam Chair, Mr. Terrence Corrigan will continue and will provide the report.
Okay, so this report is pretty much required by the global internal audit standards. The difference between before with the international standards that they had before, some of these things were at your discretion to talk about with your audit committee and board. The new standards made it required that I talk about these things with the audit committee. And so starting last year, we started doing that. We started doing reporting on what the new standards require us to inform you with, so that you as the audit committee can properly oversee the internal audit function and understand what the standards are. So basically, I'll walk you through what the standards say we're supposed to communicate to the audit committee and to the board. And so one of the things is the chief audit executive's qualifications and job description. They require us to go over that with you so that you can assess whether or not you think that job description is adequate. They want us to go over our personnel organization chart, our staff qualifications and experience, and to go over what our budget is. And they want us to have an internal audit strategic plan. So basically this, I'm not going to read this whole slide to you, but this basically summarizes what is in the Executive Director of Internal Audit's job description. A copy of the job description is attached in the package. Some of the most notable things that are required is that the internal auditor must be a certified internal auditor, and they must also be a certified public accountant at HCC. So that you can review that, and if there's anything that you think is missing from my job description, or if it's inadequate, we can certainly discuss what amendments might be done to revise the job description. We did revise the job description last year to comply with the standards, and I feel that right now it's an adequate job description for the position. So our organization chart is as we have here. I basically have a staff of 6 under me. I report to the chair of the audit committee, and administratively I report to the chancellor. And we have 5 professional internal auditors under me, and we have an office manager. And we do have an IT auditor who's very qualified for doing our IT audit. So this slide summarizes the staff's qualifications and experience that we have. We have people with various certifications. We have certified internal auditors. We have a certified information systems auditor. We have certified fraud examiners. We have certified public accountants, and we have a certified global management accountant on the staff. So we got a variety of certifications and qualifications that people meet, and quite a number of years of experience in the department. The one thing that we strive to do, and is in our strategic plan, is we want all of our professional auditors, if they have not achieved the certified internal auditor certification, we require all of them to strive to achieve that certification. And this is our budget for this year. The main information here is our discretionary budget, and the biggest line item in our discretionary budget is our information technology tools. We use a product called Teammate Plus to manage our internal audit function, and it also comes with an analytic tool called Teammate Analytics that we use to do analytics in the department. As you can see, I've listed here, we are members of quite a few different professional associations that have to do with internal auditing, and that keeps us informed and up to date on our knowledge of things that are coming up in the environment we're in. So I'm supposed to convey to you what our strategic plan is. We're required to have a strategic plan, and I've attached a copy of that strategic plan in the packet. So basically it gives information on us, it gives what our vision is, our methodology for delivering results, our alignment with HCC's institutional 10-year priorities, and strategic objectives in supporting initiatives. The biggest bulk of our strategic plan is the strategic objectives and supporting initiatives. And that is my presentation. I know it seems like an awful lot of information, but the the trustees that get assigned to the audit committee, they can roll off every year. So the best time to communicate this to them is in February, when they can have this information for the whole year that they're going to sit on the committee and have an idea of what they're overseeing. So that's why I'm trying to present all this right now.
Trustees, are there any questions? Excellent. Thank you for the information. I know that we were diligent in working with updating the job requirements and the descriptions. I want to express one concern, Madam Chair, is that these, if you look at page 5, you'll notice that our team has quite a few certifications, and these certifications require training. And so I thought that at this point in time, that the training budget for this team, and I'm sure the training budget for most of the teams is rather low. So we need to look at the opportunity to have some standard in the budgets where our internal teams can be trained. These trainings are not cheap, and these tests that they have to take are not cheap. And we really have a very robust team in comparison to some of the other community colleges, and we want to make sure that we keep our people. So I think that at this point, I would like to take that privilege and say we need to look at a way to better train our internal teams so that we, number one, keep them, and number two, they remain ahead of the curve for other entities, because we do like being number one. Are there any other questions or comments? Thank you, Mr. Corrigan, for your report. We will move to item D, the report on quarterly control and compliance attestation. This is a report item. No action is required. Chancellor Ford Fisher will introduce the item.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair, members of the board. This item is a quarterly control and compliance attestation. And with your permission, Madam Chair, Dr. Nicole Montgomery, General Counsel, will provide an overview and respond to questions. Dr. Montgomery.
Thank you, Chancellor. Good afternoon, Madam Chair and trustees. Before you is the quarterly attestation for the period September 1, 2025 through November 30th, 2025. We did receive one attestation exception, which has been fully mitigated. We have additional information to provide the audit committee in closed session on this agenda item.
Are there any questions, committee members? No questions? Thank you, General Counsel. We appreciate the attestation and we appreciate the mitigation. We will now present item E, the update on Risk 2, campus security, and Risk 7, policing. We will do this in open session and then adjourn to closed session for further discussion on the item. And we will now have the update. Now, this is a report item and no action is required. Chancellor, will you introduce the item, please?
Thank you very much, Madam Chair, members of the board. Once again, this item is a quarterly control and compliance attestation. And we will go to closed session after the presentation that we will have. So this is an update on the annual enterprise risk management, risk assessment, and campus security and risk and policing. And with your permission, Madam Chair, Mr. Robert McCracken, Vice Chancellor of Finance and Administration, will provide an overview and respond to questions. Mr. McCracken.
Thank you, Chancellor. Good afternoon. So this presentation is really broken into two parts. I'm going to quickly go through the open session portion, and then in the closed session, we can go through some additional details, and Chief Ramirez in particular can give us some additional information in the closed session. But just in general, campus security and policing are two different things, but they're related. Campus security is really focusing on those systems and processes we use to protect people and property. And examples of this is crime prevention through environmental design, our access control, security system, the emergency response planning, all of those types of things. These systems are greatly affected by operational decisions. Policing, on the other hand, is an element that supports campus security, but it is really focused on the profession of policing. That's your criminal investigations, your police patrols, your professional standards, coordination with other law enforcement agencies and first responder agencies, and then your crime prevention and response. So we combine them because they're very closely related, but there are kind of distinct distinctions between them. When we talk about campus security, very briefly, the risk is that these campuses were built in a very different security environment than what we experience today. We saw most recent legislative session in Texas, House Bill 33 added even additional campus security requirements. This is a trend that we have seen kind of every legislative session, they increase the standards. The Texas School Safety Center has regulatory authority over this per statute, and they continue to apply the K through 12 standards to the extent that they can to higher education. And security failures, and this is probably the most important point, security failures place students and employees at risk. And so it's important that we really address those in a timely manner and prevent those to the extent possible. And good security system provides, has a positive impact on student and employee experience. Some of the ways that we've tried to mitigate these risks includes some items that were approved by the Board of Trustees. I'm not going to go through those in details, but some rather expensive capital improvements that have made significant upgrades. Last year, the board included this item and an element of this item on the chancellor's goals, demonstrating that the board places a very high priority on this. We use model practices established by the Texas School Safety Center, National Incident Management System. We have a robust emergency notification system. We have very detailed emergency operations plan. We require mandatory annual training for all employees, and we do drills on campuses. When we talk about policing, these are inherently high-risk activities. House Bill 33 also added specific requirements for campus police departments and their coordination with responding agencies and the information that we provide to responding agencies. We have a really large geographic footprint that we're trying to cover, and our campuses are embedded in communities. So any crime and activity that is happening in the community surrounding our campuses can have an impact on us. Again, some of the high-level mitigation strategies, the Board of Trustees again approved significant funding to equip and support our police department so that they can carry out their mission. We, a couple of years ago, switched to a campus-based model of policing as opposed to centralized, where everybody was coming to one location and then deploying. We have officers deployed to campuses. On those campuses, we've also supplemented them with security officer, which are non-commissioned staff. We have a 24/7 operations telecommunications dispatch center. We ongoing monitoring of crime in the local community. We work with our partner agencies around the area. We also do all of the compliance reporting required by Clary, et cetera. And then we based all of our general orders are based on TCOL standards. And then we do our TCOL training along to make sure that all of the officers are appropriately trained. And thank you with that. That's the end of the report.
Committee members, are there any questions? Questions? Thank you, Mr. McCracken. We will now adjourn to closed session. The adjournment to closed session or executive session of the Audit Committee will now adjourn under the Texas Government Code, Sections 551071, 551072, and or 551074 of the Open Meetings Act as stated in the meeting notice. Should any final action, vote, or decision be required in the opinion of the board on any matter considered in the closed meeting, such final action, vote, or decision shall be taken up in the open session portion of this meeting or in a subsequent public meeting upon notice thereof. The meeting is adjourned to closed session at
3:32 p.m.
portion of this meeting of the ISD
4:07 PM. For 4:07 PM.
Hello, and we're glad to see everyone in this new year. We want to say again, congratulations to trustees Reichart, Patterson, and Linton Gary, who are re-elected to their respective trustee positions to serve another term, 6 years. So, congratulations. The Committee of the Whole meeting for February the 4th, 2026 will now come to order at
4:07 PM.
Meeting was called for the purposes as listed on the duly posted meeting notice. Also, I want to ask prayers and thought. Please keep Dr. Tamez in your prayers and thoughts, and also her family. Thank you. Opportunity for public comments. A citizen desiring to appear before the Board of Trustees shall complete the hearing of citizen form 24 hours prior to the meeting and file said application with the Board Services Office. No citizens are signed up to speak before the Committee of the Whole. Topics for discussion and/or action. We will begin with item A, overview of fiscal year 2027 tuition and fees. This is a report item. No action is required. Dr. Ford Fisher will introduce the item.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair, members of the board. As a point of personal privilege, if I may, I would like to ask Ms. Elizabeth McGee to please stand and be recognized. Ms. McGee is our new Chief AI Officer. She brings a wealth of talent and experience to HCC, and we are delighted that she is here. Thank you so very much for joining us. The bio was sent to all of the board members. Thank you so much. Absolutely.
Welcome.
Yes, absolutely. And Madam Chair, with respect to the item, I would like to also indicate that this provides an overview of tuition and fees, dual credit, and all exemptions and waivers for fiscal year 2027. And with your permission, Madam Chair, Mr. Robert McCracken, Vice Chancellor of Finance and Administration, will provide an overview and respond to questions. Mr. McCracken.
Thank you, Chancellor. Thank you, Board. I'm going to jump right in. So this is part of the budget process, and I apologize in advance because to a certain extent it feels a little bit out of order, and I just want to kind of remind people of why that is. So we're at the February point. We have to approve tuition and fees in February so that we can have them posted by the beginning of April when fall registration opens for the new fiscal year. But we understand that we're doing that in advance of budget workshop number 3, where we come back with the budget revisions after we did kind of our preliminary look in January. And so it feels a little bit out of order, but I hope by the time I kind of run through this presentation, you'll have a sense of how they relate. The other piece is that the way we set this up is we're going to do a presentation, and then following this, there's a series of individual action items for each of the various subsets of tuition and fees, but there's no presentation to go along with each of those. So at the last board meeting, there were some discussions about efficiency, and so we decided to kind of take a step back and take a look at how we are doing on just some very broad measures, right? This isn't to say that there's not areas that we can become more effective or more efficient in, but just from a very high level, how are we doing compared to our peers? And then in turn, how are we doing compared to ourselves? And so that's kind of the structure of this. So first we looked at tax rates, and we see that compared to our peers, we continue to be the lowest. Then we looked at ourselves compared to ourselves. And we see that while we had a decrease in the last 5 years or so, and then a recent increase, when we look at a broader view over the last decade, we see that this board has been very consistent about a long history of tax rate discipline. Then we took a look at payroll. This chart's a little bit hard to read, but if you look at the orange-red line, depending on kind of your color skew, You see that we are running about 53% of our budget is payroll. This is pretty much middle of the pack among all of the large urban peers. Alamo is a little bit lower. San Jac and Dallas are considerably higher. So then we took a look at what does it look like if we compare faculty, staff, and enrollment. And again, what you see is a very similar pattern, right? The enrollment is the yellow line, and as you go across, you're just comparing different colleges. Blue line is faculty, red line is staff, and again, you see pretty much the same pattern across the board when you look at the various colleges. So then we looked at ourselves. What's been happening with salary as a percentage of our actual budget, both budgeted and actual. And so the blue line is budget, and what you see is that in 2020 and in 2026, where we have roughly the same student population, those 2 years, we've actually gone down as a percentage of our budget that is dedicated to staffing from 58% to 56%. And what you've seen over the last couple of years, as that population of students has increased, the gap between budget and actual has essentially closed. And so now we expect to expend essentially all of the budgeted salary dollars. This is another look at that same kind of trend line. Our salary as a percentage of budget, being the blue line, has gone down, while our unduplicated enrollment did that multi-year dip and then the recent multi-year climb. We looked at total staff counts. And so when we looked at 2020, we had 2,700 staff, 2,800 faculty. We see that both of those numbers are lower in 2025 at 2,450 and 2,550. Then we took a look at our tuition and fees and how we compare. And you see essentially that our in-district rate is very, very competitive. San Jac and Tarrant County are a little bit lower. And our out-of-district rate also is competitive. If you look at, then we took a look at how our in-district rate compares to our out-of-district rate, which is the chart at the bottom, where we're trying to see, is there a pattern there? And there really isn't a particularly clear pattern where the ratio of in-district, out-of-district tuition seems to vary considerably. Then we looked at what's happening over the course of time. Houston City College is the yellow line, which is also, in most cases, aligned with the Austin Community College line, so they're kind of overlapping there. But what you see is after an increase in 2021, we've been flat ever since. That's pretty consistent with the other schools. They've all kind of had one or two increases during that period of time. Out of district, we've been flat the entire time. Most of the other districts have been pretty similar. So for the headline, for FY27, we are not requesting any changes in tuition and fees. So we're requesting the same ones as they were previously. This is the semester credit hour tuition and fees in district, out of state. There are also some mandatory fees that attach to those. We're continuing to recommend the tuition and fees waiver for our dual credit and P-TECH students with a $65 flat out-of-district course fee for dual credit. And then we took a look at what dual credit looks like across kind of our universe. We see in district we are the lowest along with several others. Out of district we're one of we're our least expensive local option, but there are some other ones that do not charge any out of district. This is per credit. The previous $65 was per 3 credits, so a little bit of rounding in there. We're also recommending that we continue with the Houston Connect and Reconnect awards. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Trustees, any questions? Trustee Wilson.
Do we have since I've got some other questions, but on the Reconnect, have we got any numbers on this? Or is it too early to be?
We have some numbers. I don't know if this has made it to everybody yet, but there was a trustee inquiry went out today. Houston Reconnect, so far, they've awarded 867 students for a total of $1,014,000. For Houston Connect 2, they've awarded 260 students for just a little over $495,000 in total awards. Those numbers may have changed since these were published, actually, because they're continuing to award as students are being identified and referred, then they go through the award process.
Okay. Also, the tax base, when you talk about our tax rate, we have the largest, I think, if not in the state, the largest tax base. Maybe Dallas has got some, but you have to look at both of those variables when you're looking at our tuition and everything. And you always make that point about how we've got the lowest tax rate, but we've got the largest tax base, and I just wanted to bring that up. It's for me personally, being on this board, it's frustrating putting the budget together. We're always under the gun, and we do so much stuff backwards in my mind of how I do a budget. And we have mandates from the state, like you said, about posting our tuition. So you have to figure that all out before you can figure out your expenses, before you can figure out where your budget's at. And this, to me, it gets just to be a rubber stamp of what we're doing as a board, which makes me a little uncomfortable, which I'll stop there. Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Chair.
Yes, Trustee,
The Houston Reconnect and Connect 2, the workforce is only $1 million and the Reconnect is $9.4 million. Can you repeat the numbers for the number
Sure.
of students and the dollar value?
So Houston Reconnect is 867 students, 1,014,000, 1014. Connect 2 is 260 students, 495,000.
Okay. If we are focused on workforce, which that is our levels 1, 2, and 3 certifications that the state pays for, I guess my concern is this number of 260 is really, really low, and the value, the dollar value for the Connect 2 workforce is really low. We know that the state reimburses us for those certification levels. I'd be interested in knowing what the certifications, how many certifications we've actually gotten, how many people have completed the certifications. Are these one-time awards? If you come in and you get a Connect 2 workforce, is that just for one certification level and then you cannot apply again?
Dr. Perez and Dr. Elcoin.
We're starting with the one, but again, depending on whether it's a certification that leads to another, then we'll fund that as well. So it all depends on what is the program that they're pursuing, because some may be just that credential and nothing more. But we, as you know, we have level 1, level 2, and the associate degree as well. So we are using the funds to be able to cover those students through their programs.
Okay, and from what I understand, the foundation ran out of money, correct? They ran out of scholarship funding, correct? How much scholarship funding did the foundation give out this year?
$2 million.
So the foundation did $2 million. We're looking at $9.4 million, of which only $1 million and some change was given out. But the foundation ran out, and how fast did you run out of that $2 million?
We had 11,000 applications this year.
So 11,000 applications for the foundation. 867 persons in Houston Reconnect, 260 persons in Connect 2. We have a disconnect. So with 11,000 applications and we had to close, correct? Because I got calls from my constituents. They said they could not apply. So this gives us a great opportunity to better balance and leverage our funding. If we have $10.4 million and the foundation had $2 million and the foundation had 11,000 applications, we need a better system so that these people who applied, and they only knew to apply through the foundation, they had to be sent away, so they didn't know where else to go. And that was what my constituents were saying, that once they applied with the foundation's door was closed, they called back because they didn't know where else to go. So Reconnect and Connect to Workforce, they didn't know those options. They were not privy to those options. So I would say that I would expect to see at least half of this money gone, because we have 11,000 applications. And how many were you able to fund?
We were able to award 1,500 students out of that 11,000. We have been collaborating proactively in December and January with the balance of the students from the 11,000 with Dr. Alacorda's office. And on the HCC Foundation website, it now redirects them to their financial coach for Connect to and Reconnect scholarships. So we are redirecting them, and also our folks are also, when they get phone calls, are redirecting them to their financial coaches for Connect to and Reconnect scholarships.
And Connect to and Reconnect, Houston Reconnect and Connect to have constrictions. Is that correct? Who can answer?
Dr. Alacorda.
If you recall, trustee, I did come back to the board to talk about those restrictions, and as a result of that, we now are looking at specifically what are the needs of those students, and we determine at that point whether they qualify for the Houston Reconnect or the Connect to Workforce. So we are trying to collaborate, as Karen indicated from the foundation. We're getting those lists of those students and trying to contact them and letting them know that these funds are available for them. We're looking at any resource. We're trying to centralize all of our scholarship programs within one office, so that all of the communication can be going through that office, so that everyone is aware as to what are those services available for students. So we are making some changes based on what we're seeing in terms of the notice, really getting out to the community. And we're going to do more community outreach. We've already talked to communications. We've got to get the message out where the people are, letting them know that these funds are there for them. So I think you'll see that once we get everything going, it's going to be much better, and you'll see the results and really reaching the people that really need these funds.
I think this is a very good move. I think it's moving in the right direction. The fact that 11,000 people applied for help. And kudos to you, a little over 10% you were able to award. And didn't you run out of money like in December? So this is really good to be able to take Reconnect and Connect to and do an appropriate shift. I think that is a great thing to do. I talked with Madam Chair and said that the audit committee was determined to find ways to streamline budgets so that additional funding could be moved, and whatever additional funding we had, I talked to Madam Chair about at least having 10% of that funding moved to scholarships, if not more, because people are really in need of the help. And although our tuition is low, it is really hard to pay for school, especially when you're working. And so thank you for the shift. Thank you for being able to change the rules of the game. Thank you for having a little less than 10,000 applications now that those people can be considered for help. I don't know where to send them, so if you let the board know where to tell their constituents to whom they shall connect, that would be great.
Chancellor?
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Trustee Venable Stallworth, we have been meeting consistently to look at the numbers internally. And we had a meeting as of this morning, a meeting on yesterday as well, to look at how we now triage what we have and what we're doing. The district has been working with the presidents at the colleges to make sure that all of the information is shared with the advisors and the counselors as well, the P16 personnel also. And so what we have concluded is that we really do need to parse this out by college to see how many students in the communities, the 9 trustee districts, are coming in to take advantage of the Houston Reconnect and the Connect 2. Once we get that information by college as a result of the outreach work that each of the presidents is doing in their specific areas, then we will be able to give you an accounting of how many students are going to each one of the campuses, each one of the colleges, in order to take advantage of the opportunities. And so that's where we're focusing now, because we know that this is a great contribution to upskilling the workforce. Also, as we looked in our discussion on yesterday about the admissions advisors that the board members approved, I think there were 45 of them. And so what we are anticipating now is that those admission advisors could also be assigned to the workforce areas, such as the businesses and the industries in the areas where the colleges are located, so that those employees who lack a few hours toward the completion of a certificate or degree can also enroll, and even others who are interested in completing a certificate or degree could enroll as well with the funds that are now available, thank you to the board. So that's where we are. The team members have been working, and they will be working even more intentionally as we start focusing on each of the individual colleges in order to make sure that whatever is needed to provide that outreach support, that we can provide that, and then give you an
Thank you.
update. Thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Reichard.
I don't want to make the meeting longer. I'm good.
So a few short points, piling onto a few comments Trustee Wilson made. First, on the tax discussion. So I agree with this point about tax base, not just tax rate, but also there's 2 sets of peers that we need to be considering. There's the set of peers that we look at amongst our institutional peers. There's the set of peers that our taxpayers see when they look at their tax bill, which are the other City of Houston and Harris County entities. I think we do need to consider both. I get feedback from constituents about, why is your tax rate kind of out of line? Why is your homestead exemption different than everybody else's? So I think that's something we need to keep in mind, because it is something that the taxpayers notice, because they don't see our other peer institutions on the bill. They see our other City of Houston and Harris County peers. Also agree with Trustee Wilson's point about seeing outcomes from Reconnect and Connect 2. I know they're happening. I know we had at least one graduation from Reconnect in the fall semester. I know Rochelle Brisby's story is really inspiring, and I know there's more of them out there, so sharing those success stories with the board I think would be pretty powerful, not only from the fall semester, but what we're going to see after this semester as well. Also, it was either the last meeting or in the December meeting, Trustee Wilson brought up the opportunity to do an efficiency study, and the numbers that y'all put together are compelling and valuable, but I think there is benefit or there's a lot of value in bringing in an external set of cold eyes to really dig in and do that kind of a review. So just want to second or third that original recommendation. I think it's worth us planning to do that sometime this year. Would have been nice to have done it earlier, but things take some time sometimes. I'll get to a question now. The fee proposal. So excited that we're going to, keep tuition and fees flat for another year. Are there any opportunities for us to reduce fees for high ROI credentials? I know that's a big focus of us to help guide our students into family-sustaining wage career paths. And do we have an opportunity here to be a bit strategic with an investment and reduce those fees so that we reduce or eliminate barriers to enrolling for those high ROI programs?
I'm going to give 2 answers. For the most part, it doesn't seem that the primary barrier for enrollment in some of these courses is necessarily the tuition and fees. But to tag on to the discussion that we were just having about the way that we're strategically deploying scholarship dollars to offset the existing tuition and fees, I do think is an area that the Chancellor has us working really diligently on, so that we can get to a place where we can definitively say that tuition and fees aren't the barrier, I would recommend that we do that approach versus kind of an across-the-board reduction in the tuition and fees.
Thanks for the response.
Thank you. Also, I know that it sounds like we're putting a lot of emphasis on workforce, so we need to make sure that we're also emphasizing academics, that we want the students to, those that are more interested in the academic area, that we are there to help them as well.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
I really appreciate page 28, because we don't see these codes and waivers often. And so I know that homeless students are allowed to attend HCC at no cost, but that's never discussed. But we had a visitor to the state of the college, and he has an entire group of homeless students.
Yeah,
and so this is really good. And I let him know that, but he didn't. These are not things we advertise.
And these are the optional exemptions and waivers. There are also some state mandated ones that aren't listed here.
And so when we do scholarships, and we talked about the fees, maybe not reducing the fees, but increasing the need-based scholarship, which takes care of the payment. So if we can increase the need-based scholarship for those who are facing the fees, I think that would be a really good thing. I am very excited about the fact that we have funding for our students. And thank you for this optional exemptions and waivers page, because it helps me to broadcast that to my constituents, that they are eligible under certain circumstances. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Chair,
Yes, Trustee Davis.
I think it's necessary to offer some commentary. I'm going to start by piggybacking off of what my colleague, Trustee Vanderbilt Stalwart, just referenced. I share her belief that if we're going to make adjustments, I know Trustee Cheatham talked about high ROI credentials, possibly considering a fee reduction. I have a fundamental problem with that, and it's for this simple reason. Despite our change in name, we are a community college. And as a community college, we cannot lose sight of our responsibility to extend educational opportunities to the entirety of the student base that we serve. We do recognize that certain high demand areas will generate higher ROI for us. I just don't want this board to miss the forest for the trees, because if we get so sold on that idea, we have a lot of areas where students still need to serve, still need credentials, still need to be able to contribute to our society in a meaningful way. So that's the first observation. And trust, it's no disagreement with you, but just understanding we are a community college. Two, and this is just purely to colleagues, we want to talk about fee reductions, and then we want to talk about tax rate considerations. Both are reductions in revenue to the college. And so at some point, as long as we're having a balanced discussion about if we're going to look to curb fees in certain areas, that has to be offset by some place. I recognize the fact that we're having a great year this year, but there's still so many known unknowns and unknown unknowns we have yet to be able to fully reconcile. So that's all I'll share regarding that. Thanks.
Thank you. We're going to go to the next item, item B. Yes, Trustee Wilson.
Listening to all the good comments at the board, getting back, this is tuition and fees, getting back closer to that topic. Ed, how did we do in 26 last year with our actual versus our budgeted? Or, I know we're not finished and how's that looking?
So this year,
the reason I ask that is that's really the only thing I can sink my teeth in to know if our tuition and fees are set at this and we're short by 10 million. Maybe we need to raise them, for tuition and fees of this, and we're over 10 million, maybe we need to decrease them. So it's just kind of that's the only thing I can put a yardstick by in order to vote on this item right now, because knowing all the nth detail of this budget is beyond my comprehension. So if you could, how are we doing with last year?
We're doing well, so let me talk about this year, because I have those numbers in front of me. I don't have last year's in front of me. Well, actually, I really do, but I don't know the comparison relative to budget. Right now, we are about $8.5 million over budget on tuition and fees this fiscal year. And remember, tuition and fees is 30% of your overall revenue, right? So about 50% is ad valorem taxes, 30% is tuition and fees, 15% is state funding, and then this year at least around 5% is investment income. And so right now, our tuition and fees is running ahead of the budget. Remember, when we did the budgeting process, we were very conservative in terms of enrollment projections. The other way that increased enrollment kind of impacts you is harder to measure in the short term is the state funding that you get for the completions. And what we saw when we looked at previous years is that an increase in completion, particularly around dual credit, combined with the fast funding, is that while the waivers are offsetting that tuition and fees for that group of students, at least last year we were able to generate more revenue from them than we did expense. So I don't know if that answered your question.
That does, thank you.
This item A was just information. It was a report. So now we're getting to the nitty-gritty, the next few items. So is there a motion to approve item B, approval of HCC schedule of tuition and fees effective fall 2026?
So moved.
Second.
It has been moved in second. Dr. Ford Fisher will introduce the item.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair, members of the board. This item is a recommendation for your consideration to approve HCC's schedule of tuition and fees as presented effective fall 2026. And with your permission, Madam Chair, Vice Chancellor McCracken will provide an overview and respond to questions. Mr. McCracken.
Thank you. So this is simply to effectively continue the existing tuition and fee schedule. If the board chooses not to take action on this, then the existing fee schedule continues for the following year.
Trustees, any comments? I do. I have a comment. I'm still want to help the ones with the technology fee. I think we should have a flat rate and not do the $25 per hour. So if they take 3 hours, then they're going to have to pay $75 for the technology fee plus their tuition fee per hour. So I'm still adamant about that again because Trustee Wilson was just asked previously how were we, versus the balance, how it worked. The way I see it is that we had a surplus, and that means that we could have helped some of the students, so we could afford to still go down some because we had a big surplus last year. So that's my thought. Yes.
If possible, if you would allow the audit committee to look at the IT. We are currently waiting for the IT department and their audit of equipment and actually looking at their budget. I think we can do something about that technology fee. So
thank you, but we have to vote on this today, and the vote, so the looking at it will come later. So I guess we could give a scholarship to help them out later.
On the 18th, we can pull it from the consent agenda if we're not happy with it, so we got a chance to pull it.
I think one other comment there is, certainly we have to pass a tuition and fee structure, but I don't think anybody would object if we lowered it in the future. We certainly can't raise it because that's, false advertising. But if we knock off 10 or 15% because of a, audit committee digging an efficiency finding, I don't think any of our students would object. So I do think we have more flexibility, downward pressure, after we vote to approve these in a couple of weeks.
Madam Chair, that was going to be my comment earlier, is the technology fee. I know it's something that we have expressed was a priority, and we didn't see any change in this. So I just want to know the mechanism to get you all to look at it, because we expressed several times that it's a priority for the board to look at it. If it's not feasible, it's not feasible, but we would like some, I think, follow-up, since we have expressed it is something that we'd like looked at.
Yeah,
We'd like to see a flat fee versus per hour. We still know that they have to pay a fee, but it should be a flat fee across.
Okay.
Trustee
We can take a look at
Davis?
that.
Yeah, I have, do you have a rough estimate of how much we bring in total from the technology fee? Ballpark.
I'm trying to do some quick mental math. I don't have that, but just if I look at in-district tuition and general fee, I'm at 58. It's roughly a third of my tuition and fees.
Okay, so how much of those fees actually apply towards technology?
It's my understanding that all of those do. Dawn, is that right? Yeah, those all go to the technology.
So this is a dedicated fee, which means any changes to it would have to be supplemented by something, presumably.
Yes.
Okay, so I think that for any consideration, it should come with, in the legislature would call it a fiscal note. So any proposals to make adjustments to the technology fee, I think it's important it comes with a fiscal note that gives a clear understanding of what that might do to that revenue source and how we plan to supplant it. Thank you.
If there's no further discussion, then
May I just add, we don't necessarily need to supplant it if we lower the technology, the actual technology, right? I mean, if we decide we're only going to dedicate less amount to it, we just provide less technology, right?
I'm sorry.
It doesn't have to be.
The technology fee is to upgrade all of our equipment that we have in our skills labs. Is to upgrade all of the computers that we use having to do with instruction. That's where it goes. So we get a
that's
portion of it.
lessened.
Yes.
You do less upgrades.
Yes.
It doesn't necessarily have to be taking money from somewhere else to put it in there, right?
Because right now, that's what we use to maintain our labs at state of the art.
Okay, got it.
okay, so we're now ready to vote on item B, approval of HCC schedule of tuition and fees effective fall 2026. Voting is now open.
Voting has concluded. The motion passed with a vote of 6-0.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve item C, approval to continue to waive all tuition and fees for all early college, high school, ECH, and P-TECH students effective fall 2026?
So moved.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded. Dr. Ford Fisher will introduce the item.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board. This item is presented for your consideration of approval for the continued waiver of all tuition and fees for all early college, high school, and P-TECH students effective fall 2026 in accordance with the in-district and out-of-district status. With your permission, Madam Chair, Senior Vice Chancellor of Instruction and Student Services, Dr. Perez, and Vice Chancellor of Finance and Administration will provide an overview and respond to questions. Thank you.
As you are aware, for the early college, high school students and the P-TECH students, those students we cannot charge tuition. Okay, that is part of the statute. And so what we've been doing is waiving the tuition. If we did not waiver that tuition for them, then that would fall back on the ISDs to be able to cover the cost for those students in order for us to provide instruction. The statute reads that for early college and P-TECH students, they should not be charged tuition fees. And so that's why we have brought it to the board to waive those, to continue to waive those fees for those students in those programs.
Thank you. Trustees, comments, questions? No? Ready to vote? We're ready to vote on item C. Please cast your votes.
Voting concluded, the item passed with a vote of 6-0.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve item D, approval to continue applying a flat rate and waiver for traditional dual credit students effective fall 2026?
So moved.
Second.
Has been moved in second. Dr. Ford Fisher will introduce the item.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair, members of the board. This item is recommended to the board for your consideration to continue the flat rate and waiver for traditional dual credit students effective fall of 2026. And with your permission, Madam Chair, Dr. Perez and Mr. McCracken will provide an overview and respond to questions.
Thank you, Chancellor. Good afternoon, trustees. So you just approved the waiver for the early college high school students and the P-TECH students. We also then have another group of students that we call the non-traditional dual credit student. These students are taking dual credit but are not in either one of those areas. So again, we have asked for the tuition for in-district to be waived, as we've done in the past, and then also charge $65 a course for the out-of-district students. Keep in mind that they do get, for students that qualify for FAST, that tuition is waived for those students as well.
Thank you. Trustees, comments? No? Okay, seeing none, then we're ready to vote on approval to continue applying a flat rate and waiver for traditional dual credit students effective fall 2026.
Voting has concluded, the motion passed with a vote of 6-0.
Oh, thank you. We're on a roll. Is there a motion to approve item E, approval of optional tuition and fee exemptions and waivers effective fall 2026?
So moved.
Second.
It has been moved in second. Dr. Ford Fisher will introduce the item.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board. This item is a recommendation for your consideration to approve the optional tuition and fee exemptions and waivers effective fall of 2026. And with your permission, Madam Chair, Senior Vice Chancellor Perez and Vice Chancellor McCracken will provide an overview and respond to questions.
Thank you, Chancellor. And this is the corresponding page that goes with what we were looking at in the overview slide deck, slide 28. These are those optional waivers. These are not required by the state, but these are ones that historically the board has approved, and we're just recommending they continue.
Thank you. Trustees, questions?
I have a comment. I know that we're approving this, but at a later date, are we able to amend? And my reason for asking that is if you read them, your ABE NCR class waiver, they only get a waiver for traditional adult education courses, W086, W007, the employee exemption, not to exceed $100 for CEU and NCR courses. And that's the employee exemption for full-time employees, including spouses and children. So, not to exceed $100. But I want to know if we vote for this today, are we able to come back and bring this for full review for a better option?
You can.
That's what I need to know. Okay, ready to vote?
And it's important that we also find a way how to market this so that students out there know that this is happening. Okay?
Madam Chair, I wanted to raise one point. I'm sorry. These rates will be published, correct? The tuition rates. And so I just wanted to make sure that the board was aware of that. So if there's a change, that may create some confusion or administration. But I just wanted to make sure that was clear.
And if I,
If we make
to
a
answer,
change, then
you're talking about an expansion of the waiver.
That's right.
Right.
The waiver, traditional adult education courses those two, W007 and W086, I definitely would like to have a conversation about those.
Sure. Thank you.
We're ready to vote on item E, approval of optional tuition and fee exemptions and waivers effective fall 2026. Voting is now open.
Voting concluded. The motion passed with a vote of 6-0.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve item F, tuition and fees for continuing education units and non-credit classes?
So moved.
It has been moved in second. Dr. Ford Fisher will introduce the item.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board. This item is a recommendation for the board's consideration to approve the tuition and fees for continuing education units and non-credit classes during the 2026-27 academic year and authorize the chancellor or designee to establish tuition and fees for any new CEU or non-credit courses that may be offered in the 2026-27 academic year based on the then current rates. And with your permission, Madam Chair, Dr. Perez, Dr. Ramos, and Mr. McCracken will provide an overview and respond to questions. Dr. Perez.
This is the annual report on the tuition and fee for, as Dr. Ford Fisher mentioned, for our continuing education programs. Some of these are CEUs, some of these, they're just taking them to take these courses. So the CEUs are the ones that normally lead to a credential. The others are more for pleasure and may not lead to that. So what we do every year is we bring the list to you and we highlight those programs that we added or those courses that we added during the year. And this is to allow us to move quickly to implement these courses without having to bring them to you every time we're going to implement something. So what has been agreed to in the past is that every year we bring this to you so you can see which of those new courses that we have brought to you that we added during this fiscal year. So are there any questions specifically? And they're highlighted in yellow on your reports there.
Trustees, any questions? Yes.
It would be good for the trustees to know which of these are considered our level certifications, levels 1, 2, and 3, if they are part of that or not. And we know that the state has streamlined the list, and quite a few of the certifications are now not refundable by the state. So if you could let us know in this list which of these are level certifications that the state reimburses, that would be good to know.
Okay. We'll get that information to you.
Thank you.
My only concern is that some of these fees, some paid, $1,500, $2,700, over $1,000, and so they also need some help to be able to take some of these high-cost classes, because then they also need to buy their equipment, so that's added on top of the fee that they pay. I know that last year we helped with the rodeo fund. The foundation helped out some students in some of these areas, and maybe like 5. But I'm concerned that some of them can't afford this because this is their way in to get a job, and they don't have that money up front. So if there was some way that we could also give them some assistance from that money that we're doing with the Reconnect and all, look at maybe putting it into that area.
And we are doing that. Some of these programs, as Trustee Vanderbilt indicated, are part of the short-term training programs. So you just have them listed by courses. You don't have them listed by programs. So we'll get you the list of programs so you'll see which are the ones that do qualify for that. And other than that, again, we're looking at every situation. The way the prices are set is based on we use what we know as a LEARN model in terms of what those resources are. But then we also do a competitive environmental research of our competitors, because we don't want to charge more than what our competitors are charging. So that's how we base these tuitions for our CEU and non-credit.
Madam Chair?
Yes, Trustee Wright.
It looks like there's at least one error. I don't know how that works with us approving this list, but commercial truck driving, Class B driving skills for transporting passengers, 80. Tuition is 17,000, and it says total court costs, total course costs $17. I think that's an error.
It is.
So how does that work with our approval? Do we have to go back and reapprove it? And if we could have somebody just, from the administration, just look at the numbers before they're given to us, that would be great, to make sure that they're accurate.
Yeah, and, excuse me,
A bargain.
I apologize.
I know,
for-
right?
I apologize for the error, but that's clearly an error. Is if we need to do an amendment to the total course fee to reflect the $1,700
Right.
tuition before approval.
So we need to amend? Okay. So, Madam Chair, I move to amend this to correct, I don't know the easiest way to do it for Sharon, commercial truck driving, Class B driving skills, to correct the total course cost to $1,700. Sorry, my glasses. $1,700.
Second.
Did you know the error? Did you know?
Just look at it.
Karen, did you catch it?
The motion is to amend to correct the commercial truck driving total course cost to $1,700, $1,700.
And that course cost is in the attached schedule, correct?
Adding in the attached schedule.
That's how it's referenced in the recommendation.
Melissa, question. Since this is committee of the whole, there is a possibility that that singular error is not the only one contained in the document.
Right.
What options do we have for the administration to give a comprehensive review and
Yeah.
perhaps bring back a more accurate
Yep. So if this is approved now, it would move it to the consent agenda, and if additional amendments or corrections are required, it would just need to be pulled at the regular meeting to amend further.
Just I trust you let us know if that's the case.
Well, most certainly.
Okay.
And if I could, I had a motion by trustee Reichart and a second by trustee Cheevan. A motion to amend to correct the commercial truck driving total cost to $1,700 in the attached schedule.
Yeah, the other ones have the right numbers.
Sorry. There are several courses under that, so if you could add Class B driving skills.
Is that that's an and
Yep.
in addition to?
It's
the
commercial
name of the
truck
class.
driving course. The course is Class B driving skills.
Okay. Okay. And for the record, we're going to read it again.
Sorry.
That's okay. The motion to amend to correct the commercial truck driving Class B driving skills total course cost to $1,700 in the attached schedule. And we're ready for the vote?
Yes, we're ready to vote on the amendment.
Voting has concluded. The motion passed with a vote of 5 in favor, 1 abstaining.
Thank you. Now we're ready to vote on the item F, tuition and fees.
As amended.
As amended. Voting is open.
Voting has concluded. The item passed with a 1 second. If I need to reopen that vote, if you all could re-vote for me, please. Trustee Wilson, we're re-voting on
Voting again, I pushed it once.
Yes, we're re-voting on the item. Thank you. The item passed with a vote of 5 in favor, 1 abstaining.
Thank you, Trustee Reichart, for catching that. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve item G, monthly investment report, financial statement, and budget review for December 2025?
So moved.
Second.
It has been moved in second. Dr. Ford Fisher will introduce the item.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board. This item is a recommendation presented for the board's consideration to approve the monthly investment report, financial statement, and budget review for December of 2025. And with your permission, Madam Chair, Vice Chancellor McCracken will provide an overview and respond to questions. Mr. McCracken.
Thank you. This is the standard monthly investment report and the monthly financials. We continue to outperform on the revenue side. Expenses are largely in line with where we expect to be. We do anticipate bringing a couple of budget amendments probably in April, and then again a little bit later, to reallocate some funding. Is our understanding we can spend up to the expense lines, but with the excess revenue, we need a budget amendment to be able to kind of access that, to allocate it appropriately. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Trustees, any questions? Trustee
Yeah.
Davis?
Sure. In your earlier presentation, you referenced how there was a chart that was sort of drawing a correlation between enrollment growth and the growth in faculty. How has that affected the budget?
So in the personnel line, there's a couple of places that shows up. So we have full-time faculty and part-time faculty. What we're seeing in this year's budget is that those positions on the part-time side, which is our kind of our flex as classes fill, we add additional part-time. We're running over budget and have already transferred some additional funding into that line. So as we're building next year's budget, we're increasing those faculty lines in anticipation of having to dedicate more resources to both the full-time faculty, which is kind of a more stable group, as well as the part-time faculty.
Will that have implications for the possibility of transitioning more part-time faculty to full-time status?
It should, as you add positions, as you add full-time positions, then those part-time faculty would be in line to apply.
Okay. Thanks.
And then we're now ready to vote on item G, monthly investment report, financial statement, budget review for December 2025. Voting is open.
Voting has concluded. The item passed with a vote of 6-0.
Thank you. Again, I just want to say thank you to the trustees for being dedicated, being here, and also thanking all the HCC team for all the hard work that you do. I know we had a great opening, and I think next week we have second start, so we're inviting everyone to go out there to, it's not too late, let's get going and get on board. So, again, thank you. Some of us are going to Washington, D.C. keep us in your thoughts and prayers, that they accept us up there, and that we can bring those bags full of money, okay, for all our students in HCC. So again, thank you very much. The meeting of the Committee of the Whole is adjourned at
5:07 PM.
that was a record.
I'd like to make a
And happy Valentine's.